Hello world! Welcome to Put What Where, Why and How. My name is Mike Raish, your creative organizer, and today's topic is about dealing with death and the stuff left behind. So we're talking about when you lose someone, and I think that a lot of the concepts are going to apply to people maybe that you've lost in other ways, like exes and stuff like that. But you have some kind of loss, and therefore maybe their stuff was a part of your life, or then becomes part of your life because after they pass away or move on, you inherit items. And the question is, what do you do with those items? And I'm going to go through a couple of practical things, and then also I'm going to talk a little bit about the emotional side of putting things where they need to go. So practically, if the person that passes away or moves on, and you're left with a house and the house is full of their stuff, then possibly an estate sale may be the best option for you. That is not a service that I provide, but there are plenty of estate sale companies in my area. So even if you're watching abroad, there may be an estate sale company. They usually charge a flat rate or something like that to come in and sell all of their stuff, and then you get to take home the money, and they take care of a lot of stuff. And from what I've heard, it's a very worthwhile process if you have a lot of things to get rid of from an inheritance, especially if it's like an entire estate. So that's a very practical thing. Of course, maybe you and siblings or other relatives may want to claim some things before they go about purging, selling all of the stuff, so you may inherit some items. What I want to make clear is when it comes to items, what I don't think is healthy or good for you or for your emotional health or the items that you receive is putting those items away in a place where they're not being used or displayed. Because if you have stuff from someone that you want to remember them, putting them away is not necessarily the best place to be keeping somebody. I mean, unless you really don't want to be thinking about them. But I would assume that's why you want to keep the object, is so that you can remember this person by the object. I've heard a couple of comments on the forums this week where somebody had a china cabinet and they saved it for a while because they didn't have a place to live, and then they got a house and they were able to use the china cabinet, and now this china cabinet serves them, and it's also a piece from their grandmother, I believe. So I think that that's really, really beautiful. If you can repurpose an item that you receive from someone that you've passed away, I think that that is going to serve you the best and serve the purpose of representing them in your life. I think that that's going to be the best way to go about it. If you inherit just like all of these items, I helped a client where she just had all this sewing supplies, but ultimately she never really sewed anything, and she kind of already had her own sewing machine for the few sewing projects that she did. So ultimately that wasn't the best thing for her to inherit, keep, and hang on to represent her grandmother. So finding something, and I think, you should hold on to something. You don't have to by any means. If you don't need a thing to remember a person by, that don't feel obligated to keep an item. But I think that with a minimalist mindset, it's important to have a lot of value in a few objects than to have a little value in a lot of objects. And everyone's is going to be different. Everyone's spectrum is going to be different when it comes to how much you value items that you have versus how much items you do have, and et cetera, et cetera. So when it comes to stuff, even if it's inherited from a dead person, a lost relative, it's still important that you apply the same kind of thoughts around all of the stuff that you have. So if it's a thing, it should serve you, and that purpose can be to remember the person that you lost, and that's fine, but you shouldn't have an entire garage full of stuff from someone that you lost, because now you're remembering the person from the mess that is your garage. You're not remembering the person from the quilt that they made, or the painting on the wall, or their picture, or whatever you end up saving from that person. I also think, and here I'm getting into the emotional side of stuff, so there's the physical component of actually inheriting stuff, and then there's the emotional component. And sometimes they have a balancing act. So if you inherit stuff from a person that you've lost, and maybe you've kind of decided that, like, well, this object is from that person, and I love that person, so therefore I should hang on to the object, but I don't have a connection, or I don't have a personal use for the object, so therefore it's not serving me, then there's this emotional process of letting go of the object, and it's kind of connected to the person. So you feel, or you may feel, like you're letting go of a piece of the person. And that's so hard to put salt in the wound when you've literally lost them. So even though they're like 100% gone from this plane of existence, letting go of an object that's connected to them may feel like you're losing them even more, because they're gone, the object is one of the few things that has their energy attached to it. So I understand that letting go of objects connected to people that you've lost can be really, really hard to let go. And I don't think that you should like necessarily rip off the Band-Aid and be like, ugh, I'm going to throw everything away, because that might not be healthy for you. It's best that you go through whatever your grieving process is, and I encourage you to look up the grieving process. It's on Wikipedia. One of the best pieces of advice that I've ever received from a human being before. I was going through a very hard time with my divorce, which I've mentioned before, and it's, again, not death, but in a way I was losing someone that I loved, and she said, let yourself be sad. And that was like the best advice I've ever received, because so often being sad has a bad rep, and being angry has a bad rap, and being boring has a bad, like there's so many like negative connotations to all these things, when really sadness is just another emotion that we need to feel and we need to process. It's kind of a part of life. You can't have happiness without sadness, and we can't exactly run away from sadness to become happy. Because when we run away from sadness, we actually just kind of become more sad, because we're not attending to the feelings that should be flowing through us. And it's best to become kind of in the flow of what you feel, rather than to fight something simply because you feel like it's painful. Pain is also a sign of growth. And mourning somebody's death is going to be different for everybody. So how and when you let go of objects is going to be different for everybody. But spending the time and letting go of these objects may help you through the process of letting go of the person. And not to let go of them, but to let go of their hold on you from living your life. Because I would hope anyone that you love, and that hopefully loves you back, that has passed on, they would not want you to suffer in any means. And part of that suffering could be mourning for too long, and hanging on to them and hanging on to their items for too long. And you have to decide what that is, and there isn't a right or wrong way to do it, because you have to go through all of it. And if you skip steps, then you might be dealing with it for much longer than you should be. So make sure you're letting yourself be sad and letting go of objects connected to them when it's the right time for you. But also when you do decide to hang on to an object, make sure that it's serving you. Another personal story, I didn't save very many objects from my divorce, but boop, if this will focus, this picture here won't get any brighter. But it's a very cool piece. And I'm gonna flip this around. There we go. I love this piece. I actually bought the poster somewhere, and my husband matted it for me and put it in this beautiful frame. My brother helped build it. And times, and again, I know this isn't death, but it's the closest thing to death that I've had, because I haven't really lost anyone super, I hate that noise, sorry, super close to me. But I did lose my husband because of other reasons, not death. Death do us not part. But this picture is just so awesome, and I've let go of pretty much everything that we kind of had together. And I didn't like set it on fire like you might expect, but this picture is a happy memory, and it's still art, and I love it. So this particular object doesn't carry negative energy, and I get to remember some of the good times that I had in that relationship, even though it ended very poorly. So that's just an example of like, yeah, you're right, Alexa. A loss is a loss, for sure. I think we all grieve, regardless of what type of loss it is. And yeah, so objects tend to have more meaning when people pass away, or you lose them or whatnot. So I can understand why it's hard to get rid of things, and you don't have to get rid of things. But if you're hanging on to them, display them or use them. Don't let them collect dust, because that's kind of disrespectful to the person that you want to be remembering. You know, if you want them to be part of what you think about, or you want their energy in your life, even though they're not around anymore, then put this object in your space. Put it in your space and use it. Don't let it collect dust, and don't let it weigh you down. And it may slow down the grieving process if you do. We're adding Alexis to the conversation, hopefully. Hello, I have to disconnect my microphone or else I can't hear you. Coming in clear. Hello.
Yeah, I don't mind talking about it. I talk about it a lot, like I've talked about it like many speeches and stuff, but my mom is really domestically violent. My stepdad sexually assaulted me. And then they publicly shamed me to the entire family and in community and public. And then, I went after them with charges. They fled the state to like go cross country. I have no idea where they are, to try and avoid the charges, even though I could just subpoena them at any point anyways. But, the last thing that I had of my mom was just a picture of her and me. And I was just like, you know what? I need to let go of this negative energy. I don't even know why I still have this picture. It's not something that I want to see. So I just burned it. And I was like, I'm letting go of this, and I'm just releasing the negativity that it brings me into the air. So
yeah, that's so cool. I've heard of and I've used that ritual of like burning the picture or the object if it's burnable. I think it's really, really powerful to do that. Was that healing for you?
Yeah. What was that?
Was it healing for you?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Yes, very healing. Yeah, I felt a lot better after I burned it. I was just like, why am I still holding on to this picture? I found it again like one day, and I was just like, why do I still have this picture of this person that has done everything to try and destroy me, just because she is not quite right in the head, I guess.
Yeah.
So I was just like, it's time for me to just let go of all this and just, just accept what it is and just be like, all right, I'm my own family now, me and my son, and that's what we are, and I'm happy with that. And we're better off that way. So it's not anything that brings me any pain anymore.
That's beautiful.
So, I mean, I did lose my birth father also. He gave me a rose pin. It's the only thing that I had from him, and I lost it.
Oh.
But I got a tattoo on my back to replace it. So that's it that I have, like, of, things from my childhood, mementos, or, like, family and stuff, But, like, my brother and sister won't talk to me because they believe my mom. Because that's normally what happens statistically, is that, hang on one second. What, sweetheart? Okay, honey. Sorry. So, like, normally what happens is, like, the the spouse of the victimizer will like side with the victimizer and go against, you know, the victim because they want to keep their marriage together, obviously,
Right.
you know. So statistically, that's what happens. So statistically, you know, that's what happened.
Wow.
And you know, then she's really good with manipulating people. Like I call her like the master of manipulation. I don't know how she does it, but she could just like turn anything around into something else. And the only person that I still talk to in my family is my older sister, and she's my half sister technically, but I never really say that except for the reason of the fact that she was old enough where she saw all of my mom's, you know, aggressive,
Mm.
bad patterns, and she was like, "Well, yeah, I totally believe that this happened because, you know, your stepdad's a total scumbag, first of all, and you know, your mom's done a lot of this kind of stuff before you were even born. So yes, I do believe you." So I'm sorry that, you know, your younger sister and your brother don't believe you, but I do, and I won't ever, you know, leave your side. So at least I still have my older sister, which means the world to me.
Yeah, thank God you have somebody. Jesus Christmas. uh, wow. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing that. That was really great and powerful.
No problem.
Um, fantastic. Really great. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to start wrapping up now. I will see you tomorrow at the Artist Showcase.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Wow. So, really powerful topic. Everyone deals with death differently. And Alexis just came on and talked about how she lost her family, but due to the conditions of abuse that were happening in the household. And we all lose things in different ways. And she burned her picture, her mother's picture of her and her mother, and to release negative energy. And I think that's really what it feels like when you're letting go of objects. When you let go of stuff, they're deeply connected to ideas. And when you let go of the objects, you're also letting go of really intense ideas that are holding you back. And then when you're able to do that with all of the stuff, then you're surrounded by things that support you and your creativity. So thank you for joining me today. Really somber topic. I'm not sure what I'm talking about next week, but I'm excited to figure out what that is. And I'm having an artist showcase tomorrow, so if you're listening to this, get in touch with me and I'll give you the details. Alexis will be showing some of her artwork among 10 other or so artists from the local Western New York area. And I'll be showing my 3D audio sensory experience from my Halloween show. So it's going to be a blast because art makes the world feel things. All right. Thanks again and peace.